What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. It's honestly been quite a while since we've been in the garage with the Genesis, since the New Year's here, since winter's here, and unfortunately it's probably going to snow within the next few days. I figured let's get in the garage, let's go over what the future holds for the Genesis. Are we keeping it? Are we selling it? If we keep it, are we staying on bags, or are we going static? Are we changing the wheels, changing the wrap? More camber, less camber? We're gonna cover all of that in today's video, so let's just get right into it. All right, so first things first, let's get this one out of the way. We are 100% not selling the Genesis. This car is not going anywhere. This spring will be 8 years I've had this car. This is the first car I've ever bought brand new, the first car I've ever modified, and the only car I've ever extensively modified like this. So 100%, this car is staying in my possession. I honestly don't see a reason I will ever sell this car, but just shut that one down. 100% keeping the car. Now that that's out of the way, we're going to start going over what we're going to be doing in the car and what changes we're going to be making. Because you're probably sitting here watching this video, looking at the car behind me, thinking to yourself, hey, it looks pretty much done. It looks like a complete car to me. What else could you possibly be changing on that thing at this point? So before we get into that, one quick thing. If you haven't seen the full walk around video, the last video we did on the Genesis, pause this video and go check that video out. I'm going to link it down below in the description. That way I don't have to bore you guys with repeating myself, because I keep finding myself repeating myself in these videos. I want to keep this video straight and to the point and go over just the changes we're going to be making on this car. So like I said, link down below. If you guys haven't checked that video out, go check it out so that way you know what's done to the car. And then when I go over the changes we're gonna make, it's gonna make a little bit more sense to you guys. So without further ado, let's get into what we're changing about the car. All right, so we're just gonna jump right into this, and I wanna nip this one in the butt and get this over with and clear the air. So for the suspension, we are gonna be making some changes, but not what you think. The car is not going static, it is staying bags. I know if you follow me on Instagram, you probably see I always complain about having airlift problems or ride height problems and all this stuff. So a few videos back, you guys will remember, we did have a problem with the airlift management, just aired the car out while driving. It wouldn't recalibrate, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, I was finally on the phone with Bag Riders because airlift was kind of not doing anything to help me on the situation. So I called Bag Riders, and their customer service is absolutely phenomenal. So long story short, we figured out what the problem is. And the problem simply comes down to the height sensors. They're not done incorrectly. I want to make that very clear. The height sensors are installed correctly, just not 100% correctly. I'm not going to get too far into it in this video because that's going to be a later video. But essentially what happened is after the car recalibrates, it'll reread the height sensors, and if you go into the menu and look at the height sensor tool, it says that all of them are in low range. I don't know why that happens, especially if it's recalibrating. Bag Riders, when I talked to them, they said if all 4 of them are reading low range, it shouldn't recalibrate, but it is recalibrating. So I don't really know what the problem is. We do know how to fix it. You got to adjust the arms. There's 3 different slots on the arms that you put the sensor rod in, and this, that, and that thing. It's going to make sense in a later video when we go over fixing it. Unfortunately, they're all on the smallest holes, so the solution isn't just going to be moving them. We're going to have to completely readjust the rods. I need to get on the phone with Bag Riders. The only problem is this garage doesn't have service, so to call them on the phone, I need to go home, talk to them, then come here, change it, then call them back. So we're going to be doing that. Hopefully we can get this situation figured out and make this a just super simple fix. Fingers crossed. I don't think it's going to be, but like I said, we'll dive into that in another video. I don't want to spend too much time on that today. As far as static, I know everybody always says just go static, stop having problems. Unfortunately, no, we're not going to go static, at least at the moment. If I keep having problems with the airlift management, I might reconsider, but I'd have to go up to 19s, lower the car, tuck. I don't like tucking, this, that, and the other thing. I mean, this is the ride height of the car on bags. I mean, this is the ride height all year. We drove from Boston to New York or New Jersey and back just like this, like 6,000, 7,000 miles this year, just like this. I mean, that's pretty good in the rear. I mean, I could have this car static just like this, have no problems driving it. But when I'm at a show and aired out and parked, I want to be on the ground with my front bumper. I want the fender flares to be inside the wheels fender to lip. I don't like tuck fitment. I don't want that on this car. I don't think it flows as well as fender to lip. That's why this car is staying on bags. Alrighty, so that is not going to be the only suspension change we're going to be making. As of right now, I'm planning on taking out just a tiny bit of camber, specifically in the front. So I'm kind of sitting on the ground right here, trying to get you guys a good side profile of the car, so that what I'm about to say makes a little bit more sense. I hope that it translates over on camera. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it as I see it in person, but I'm just going to turn the camera around and show you and try to explain it to you and get right into this. Alrighty, so now the camera's turned around, you can kind of see down the side of the car right here from the front. We're just gonna go over it. So originally when I set this car up back in summer of 2020, I had the car perfectly numbers matching front and rear. It was at either 14 or 14.5 degrees of camber. I forget the exact number now, but when it was at the exact numbers matching, it just looked really heavy in the front, like it had way more front camber than the rear, even though it was perfectly numbers matching. So before we even rewrapped the car, we ended up taking out a degree of front camber. So aired out, it should be around 13.5 in the front and 14.5 in the rear, somewhere around there, within a half a degree of those numbers. I forget the exact amount. But as the summer went on, this past summer that is, and I've been seeing more pictures of this car, more videos of the car, and I've just been staring at it more in person at shows. For some reason, I still think the front could have a little less camber because it just looks heavy in the front for some reason. I don't know if that's going to interpret on this camera right now from this angle. I don't know if you can tell. In person, it looks pretty much even, but for some reason, it just, from certain angles, it just looks heavy in the front with camber. And I think it'll look a little bit better if it maybe has like a degree less, sort of sitting at like 12.5, 13 in the front and 14, 14.5 in the rear. I think it'll just make the car like visually flow better and just look even. Obviously numbers matching is the goal, but sometimes numbers matching doesn't translate to like perfectly aesthetically pleasing. So that's why I think I might take out a little bit of front camber. I'm not 100% sure yet. Alrighty, so before we dive into kind of like the bigger changes of the car itself, we are going to make one quick note about tire size, because I think we're going to change tire sizes once again. So if you remember one of the very first videos on the channel, we ended up going from the old Achilles to these current Hancooks, and then we went up a size as well. So we went from a 265/35 Achilles in the front to a 275/35 Hankook, and then a 275/35 to a 285/35. We did that to get a little bit less stretch, but the Hancooks run a shorter overall diameter, so even though we went up a size, we didn't raise the car at all. Unfortunately, since then, I really have wished that the rear end would just be a little bit lower. Unfortunately, we can't lower the car, like the body of the car, in relation to the wheel, because we're already sitting fender to lip. If we were going to do that and stay fender to lip, we'd have to cut the flare, raise it, lower the car, and blah, blah, blah. It's just, that's most likely not going to be the solution. A much simpler solution, which will solve that problem, and then something that I have been running into in the front, is just changing tire sizes. So when we went up to these 275/35s, and then I started driving the car like as low as it is, this actually is kind of aired up a little bit, so the ride height is actually just a little bit lower in the front, but ever so slightly on full lock turn, I will rub the front side of the wheel well. And that is simply because these 275s have just a tiny bit less stretch than the old 265s. And it just ever so slightly rubs in the front. It's not really that big of a deal, but it is one of those things that just annoys me enough that I want to change it. And because I want to change the rear and get it lower and not affect the fitment, if I just change tire sizes, I think it should solve both problems. So we're going to go back to the 265/35 in the front and 275/35 in the rear, but we're going to stay Hancooks. So Hancooks, like we went over in that first video of tires, run a smaller overall diameter, and then they run a little bit wider of an overall width. So essentially, we'll be getting a lower height of the vehicle with a little bit more stretch than these have, but they shouldn't be as stretched as the same sized Achilles were. I hope that makes sense. When we go into that video and we make that change, I'm sure it'll make more sense at the time. But right now, I just wanted to touch base on that because, like I said, I want to lower the rear, just get rid of that little tiny bit of rubbing in the front, and the solution, quick and dirty one, is just slightly change up tire sizes. Alrighty, so the next thing I'm going to do to the car, it's going to be a dramatic change, but it's going to have absolutely no visual impact when you're looking at the car. I've mentioned it in the past. A couple of people got excited when I said I was going to do it so they could see how I'm going to do it. And that is we're going to be raising the engine on the car. So if you guys saw the video when we came back from Wildwood, we ended up cracking the oil pan. It happened as a fluke right in front of my driveway, right as we were getting home. It took 7.5 years to get to this point of cracking an oil pan. So will it happen again? I don't know. I'm not too worried about it, but the new oil pan is obviously new, fresh, and unbent. So it does sit just a little bit lower than the front of the front subframe. So I figured while the car's parked for the winter, we might as well just nip the whole potential problem in the butt and take care of it now. How much I'm gonna raise it, I'm not 100% sure. How I'm gonna raise it, I know how to do it. I don't know how I'm going to lift the actual engine to get the spacers in there. I don't have an engine hoist, and I don't want to just buy one for that one thing. So I don't know. We got to figure that out. Luckily, when we were in Gatlinburg last October, my buddy Harold, who has a Genesis Coupe in Florida, it's like super static. Like there's static and then there's him static. I mean, the thing is on the ground. I'll post a picture of it on the screen right now. But when we were down there, I talked to him about it because obviously he had to do something. I forget how he said he did it. It's just been so long now. So I'm going to talk to him, see what he says. Probably going to raise it up maybe like 1/4 to 1/2 inch. I think he said he did 3/4 or an inch. I don't know. I'm not going to do it as drastic as his because obviously he's static. I'm on bag, so my ride height is obviously just a little bit lower. I mean, a little bit higher than his is. But we are going to be doing that. It's going to make a big difference. It's just going to take one potential worry or problem out of the equation. It's going to be well worth it. Like I said, I just got to figure out how exactly I'm going to do it. All right, so now as far as like quote unquote performance things on the car, I do want to make a couple of changes, specifically the front mount intercooler. So this is still a factory intercooler that's on the car. Not gonna be able to see it very much, but it's going on almost 8 years old now, and it's just starting to show its age from just getting road debris, like kind of pelted at it and stuff. I do want to get the Turbo XS front mount intercooler kit. The only problem I have is because I have the M&S bumper and I retrofitted an OEM grill on here, it is already really close to the factory crash bar. I don't know if this bumper and this grill setup is going to clear the Turbo XS kit. I did talk to them. They unfortunately didn't have the measurements compared to the OEM one because the kit's just been out for so long. I've tried to reach out to people to see if I can get measurements, but nobody's really come through for me. I did talk to Turbo XS about like my concerns with it clearing. They said if I test fit the crash bar in the core and it doesn't clear, they shouldn't have a problem with taking it and giving me a refund and taking it as a return. I just have to figure out, do I want to keep trying to get measurements or just order it and hope for the best? So I think I might just end up ordering it, hoping for the best, and just seeing what happens within the next few weeks. But like I said, I do want to make that change. I just don't know if I want to commit to buying the kit right now without knowing 100% if it's going to clear the front bumper and grill. All right, so the next performance thing that I've just been seriously considering lately, I've been heavily thinking about it, is doing a top mount turbo. Obviously, looking at the car, it's not a track car, so do I need a top mount turbo? Absolutely not. But it does look cool. And yeah, I just really want one. Just because, like, imagine at a car show, you just see like all the stance cars laid out, all cambered out, sitting on the ground. Then they pop the hood and it has a top mount turbo and all that stuff. Just looks cool. The car doesn't really need it. It's just as fun as it was the day I bought it. Driving wise, like, it doesn't need to be any faster. I'm not going to use any more power. It would be fun to have a little extra power. Like if I did a top mount, I wouldn't be looking for like 600 horsepower. I'd just be looking for a little bit extra boost. Well, ironically speaking, just a little bit more power or boosting power, not like, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, now I lost my train of thought. But yeah, I do want to do a top mount turbo. The only problem I have is I can't find a kit. So BTR used to just sell a kit that you could just buy a whole kit, had everything for it and a can tune. Then you can go and get dyno tune to be perfect and all that stuff. They just don't do that anymore, it seems like. And then the other problem I'm running into is I don't even know, can you dyno tune, like actually dyno tune a car with 14 degrees of camber in the rear? Like, I don't know. I don't know anybody who's ever dyno tuned a car with that much camber. So like, is it a thing? Who knows? Can you street tune it? Yeah, but like, a street tune as good as a dyno tune? Who knows? I have no idea. I've never done any performance aspect things like that seriously, which is another reason why I want to do it. I've already done suspension setups, I've done the bodywork, all this stuff, like the interior, blah, blah, blah. I just want to do something that I haven't done before, and a top mount turbo kit is something that I've never ever done before. I've never done that far into performance. I would love to do it. It has pretty much nothing to do with money costs. It just comes down to like, where can I get it tuned? Where can I get the kit? I don't want to have to like get a full kit, custom this, custom that, bring it to this shop and that shop, this, that, and the other thing over the winter. I just want to ideally get like a full bolt-on kit and then get it tuned in the springtime and just make it like super simple. But I just don't think anybody has that anymore. If they used to have it, I don't think they have it anymore, and that's where like the biggest challenge comes. All right, now that I've kind of drawn out this video, made it a little bit longer than intended, we're going to get into all the visual things that we're going to be doing to the car. First things first, we are 100% peeling this vinyl wrap, and we're going to do a new vinyl wrap. When we peel the car, we are going to be doing some body work. We're going to be doing some fender flare fixes. There's a couple of cracks on the fender flare. There's one on the rear. There's a couple of chips and a little bit of a crack on the front bumper. They're going to be super simple fixes, but we're going to be taking care of all of that, like body work stuff. I might take the car to paintless dent removal again and kind of get stuff like that out. There's a couple of like little nicks that happened to the car this year. I don't actually know how that got there, but whatever. I might just get some paintless dent removal, just make like the car perfect again. But 100% we are going to be changing the vinyl wrap and doing some body repairs. We are going to be keeping the carbon hood and carbon trunk, and the roof will be staying black, as well as the mirrors and the door handles, all that stuff. As far as colors go, I have it narrowed down. I don't know what I'm going to do. So one of my options is keeping green, just do another shade of green. Green has somehow turned into like my favorite color. Every time I see a green car, I get super excited, which is weird because like I normally don't like the color green. I just think green worked on this car so well. I'm a big green guy lately. I don't know. So do I want to keep green and just do a different shade of green? I'm not 100% sure. There's like a lime acid green by Tech Wrap that's really cool. I don't know if that's going to be too crazy. I don't know. Another color I want to do is like a lighter blue, like kind of like a Toyota Tacoma blue. Originally, that was when I powder coated the wheels. I wanted the car to be like Toyota Tacoma, lighter blue, and go with the rose gold with white wheels. I couldn't get rid of this green vinyl wrap, so I ended up just doing it, and I think the colors worked out pretty well. So do I do that now? I don't know. My other option is do yellow, but a lot of people are doing yellow lately. A lot of my friends locally or people I know have done yellow, and I just don't want like a whole bunch of yellow cars. And that kind of the other reason on my other color. The other color I really want, like more than anything, is Tech Wrap Coral or Peachy Coral, whatever it's called. It's a crazy color. I saw it at a car show. A friend of a friend has it on his like Passat wagon or something, and it just looks insane. It's kind of like this exact color, just orange instead of green, and I love it. But I don't know, there's a lot of cars done it lately, and I don't know if I want to do the color just because I see it all the time, and I don't really care about having the same color as somebody else. But like, when you see it a lot, you just don't really like it as much. Like, I've seen this color for so long that I don't really, it doesn't wow me anymore because I've just been looking at it for so long. So when I'm looking at their cars and I have the same color, it's the same thing. I don't care if multiple people have the same color as me or me as them and stuff. If I'm tired of looking at something for too long, I just don't like it anymore. And that's basically exactly what's happening with this green. I've just looked at it so long that even though I still like it, I love the color, I just want something else that I haven't been looking at for a year. As far as wheels, so 100% we're keeping the Baz Rays 18s. 100% we're keeping the white faces. That's definitely not changing, or I don't think. We do have a problem with that wheel specifically, and that kind of goes to what those wheels are up there. We're gonna make a whole video on that coming up here in the next few weeks. But we are gonna keep the Baz Rays, at least keep the 18s. As far as the lip color goes, I don't know yet. I love this rose gold. When we did it, I did have it in my mind to be a little bit more of a pink rose gold than like a coppery rose gold. But luckily this shade of rose gold went with this green very well. Like I said, originally I wanted to have like a light Toyota Tacoma blue on here. And I think if we could do that color on the car and a little bit pinker lips, that would look really cool. But full white would look really, really sick with like pretty much any of those colors I just mentioned on the car. So I don't know what I want to do on the car as far as like color combo goes. I do have a really cool color by Nosatech that I really like that I haven't mentioned yet. And then I would be changing up the wheels, I think, if I did that color. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know. Comment down below what you guys think. If you made this far in the video, comment what do you think color combo this car should be. Keep in mind we are going to keep the carbon trunk and hood, or hood and trunk, and the black roof. Those 100% staying. I like those like visual breaks in the color of the car. Yeah, I don't know. That's the plans exterior wise for the car. All right, so one last thing I want to go over in this video, something that I need to do here soon, is go over the trunk setup on this car. So if we pop the trunk up, you can see it is an absolute mess. Like I have a whole impact kit, a jack, detailing supplies, a bunch of tools in the cubby over here, a bunch more tools in the cubby over here. We got two like folding chairs, tank and compressors. I know you can't see all that because it's just black on camera, but just trust me. Like I'm so tired of this thing being a mess. In order to get the spare tire out, I need to take all this stuff out, to open the floor, to pull the tire out, then put it all back, and blah, 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 blah. I need to figure out a new solution for this because I'm tired of this. I do want to continue carrying all my tools, my spare tire and all that. What I'm thinking is if I make a new false floor on this thing and then make the tank and the compressors mount up to the top of the deck lid right here, I then have all this room underneath it to slide things like the impact, other tools, the jack, make a little cubby over here for the detail supplies. That way I have full access to the spare tire in here. Just kind of redo the whole trunk setup. Make this thing finally neat, finally organized, because I can't tell you guys how tired I am of looking at this thing, just a complete mess. Thing moves around, like the jack moves around when I'm driving. Like, I'm just so tired of this. I don't know how else I can explain it to you, but we need to figure out what we can do, how we can organize this, and just make this like a nice, simple, organized trunk setup. All right, so now that all that's out of the way, we're gonna be wrapping up this video. Hopefully I didn't make this too long. I didn't intend to make the video super long, but what can I say? Sometimes I just get carried away chit-chatting about everything I plan on doing in the car and then way overly explaining it all. So hopefully it wasn't too long. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. Like I said, if you did make it this far, comment down below on what color combos you think I should do in the car, because I am having a hard time figuring that out. But it's getting cold in here. I have the heat turned way down so it didn't keep kicking on in the background of the video. So it's getting freezing in here. I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna go home. Well, peace out, and I'll catch you on the next one.